Can you imagine that on Tuesday, next week, we were supposed to be having a general election, a presidential election. The fate of William Ruto was supposed to be decided next week on Tuesday. This is a very unusual explainer. Why? A judge in Malindi by the name Mugure Thande has given thunder itself into the political space. It is thunder to the IEBC. It is thunder to the Kenyans. Welcome to Trending News version of the Court Helicopter. We are equally shocked. Count the number of days. Today is Friday. Tomorrow is Saturday. Next is Sunday. Then Monday. 4 days away, the general election could have happened. What could have happened to the IEBC? The ballot papers have not been printed. The IEBC clerks have not been recruited. The returning officers are not there. The political parties have not nominated their candidates. We were staring at an Armageddon. The judge insisted that the elections to be on Tuesday, next week. I don't know what would have happened. But the judge saved this country. The judge said to avoid, reads here in paragraph 77, as regards the order directing the second respondent to hold the next election of the president on the second Tuesday of August 2026, it is noted that the petition was filed rather late in the day in October 2025. The first reason why the judge postponed elections from Tuesday next week is that the petition was filed very late in 2025. And it has been determined today, August 2026. Number two, to grant the order as sought will be to grant an order that is logistically impossible to implement, given that the second respondent, that's the IEBC, and the prospective candidates for elective posts and Kenyans in general are all geared towards an election in August 2027. The judge looked at it and said, we don't have presidential candidates in the ballot. The IEBC has not prepared itself. Free. The mind of everybody is on the 10th of August 2027. That Tuesday, not this coming Tuesday. That is the second reason. The third goes, the judge goes there and says, such an order would no doubt plunge the country into chaos. This country was going to go up in arms. This country was going to go up in chaos. The judge has averted thunder. The thunder that could have roared in this country. I don't know where we could get, which could have stopped that thunder. The judge, in her wisdom, says, it is therefore necessary to balance the enforcement of the rule of law with judicial restraint to avoid precipitating unmitigable national instability. The judge said, the Constitution demands the presidential election to be held on Tuesday, next week. But it will cause chaos. The chaos that cannot be mitigated. So the judge says the Constitution mandates the judges to look at the consequences of their decision. And based on that, the judge avoided a national instability. What did the judge find out? The judge found out in the final part, that a declaration is hereby made that pursuant to Article 136, 2A of the Constitution, the election of the president must be held on the second Tuesday of August in the 5th year following the previous general election, and not after the 5th year. All those things are legal terms. It goes on to say, the judge looked at all these issues, and in paragraph 67, paragraph 63, the judge says, it is clear that the term of the office of the president is not pegged on years. The provision states unequivocally that the term of the office of the president shall begin on the date the president is sworn in and shall end when the next person is elected president pursuant to Article 136, 2A and sworn in. The wording is explicit, and there can be no other way of interpreting it other than as provided. As such, contrary to the assertion of everybody, there is no provision in the Constitution that guarantees to the president a 5-year term. Wow. Any mention of a term for elected officials is in Article 177.4, which provides that a county assembly is elected for a term of 5 years. So the judge is saying President Ruto is not assured of 5 years. If Gachagua becomes the president next year, there is no guarantee that he must serve 5 years. If Matiang'i, if Kalonzo, if Eugene, if Sifuna, if anybody becomes a president of this republic, there is no law that guarantees them 5 years. The law only guarantees MCS. Can you imagine? For the MCS, Article 177.4 is the only one that are guaranteed. And therefore, the question that people have been talking about, the president must serve for 5 years, that one, the judge found out that that is not true. Hear what the judge talks in paragraph 67. The court thus finds that the correct interpretation of the Constitution is that the second Tuesday in the 5th year with regard to the next president's election must mean 11th August 2026. Oh my God. The election for the president was to be on 11th of August 2026. 4 days ago. 4 days ago. What could have happened? This is the judge saying. Contrary to the assertion of the second respondent, the date of the next election is predetermined by the Constitution and is not at the discretion of the second respondent. Additionally, having found that there is no provision in the Constitution that guarantees the president a 5-year term, the correct interpretation of Article 142.1 is that the current president's term, that is President Dr. William Ruto, that began on 13th September 2022, being the date he was sworn in, shall end when the person next elected president is sworn in, notwithstanding that will not have served for 5 years. The President Ruto is a lucky man. The president is a lucky man. Amepitia upenyo. The president amepita katikati. William Ruto has survived. Why? The judge, in her wisdom, in order number 5, says the declaration of invalidity of the election is suspended until after the next general election is held to allow the second respondent to correct that defect. The president has survived miraculously. The judge has suspended the implementation of this order. It will take effect 2032. It will not take effect today. What would have happened if the elections were not suspended? The cabinet would have been dissolved. The PSS would have gone home. Government systems would have collapsed. President Ruto could be an incumbent for the remaining 4 days. Let us look at another question. Why did the judge do this? In paragraph 46, the judge says, prior to the current constitution, the date of the presidential election was used as a secret weapon by the incumbent president. Section 3 of the retired constitution provided that whenever parliament is dissolved, an election of a president shall be held at the ensuing general election. Section 59 conferred upon the president the immense power to dissolve and prolong parliament at any time. As such, elections could not be held without the president saying so. This power thus gave the incumbent president the unfair advantage of dissolving parliament to pave the way for general elections at his convenience. So the judge looked at the powers under the old constitution. When Moi could call elections any time, you remember what happened in 1982. When the coup, the government of Moi was attempted to overthrown and a mutiny was quashed, the president called for a snap election in 1983. It got everybody off guard. In the second episode, we shall look at that historical aspect to the Kenyan election. Lastly, he looks at paragraph 48. He says, there is sufficient historical justification for adoption of this formula. The second Tuesday in August in every 5th year. It says, the Constitution at section 59 conferred power to the president, the sole power to dissolve and prolong parliament. Elections could not be called unless the president had dissolved parliament. During this period, the election date was regarded as the executive's, in quotes, secret weapon, unleashed only at time appropriate to the executive. Can you imagine if President Ruto had this secret executive weapon? He could have called the election when Gachagua was impeached and the opposition was never organized. If Ruto had these powers and he calls an election today, there is no one presidential candidate available. Why can't the president move to court and say this suspension to be lifted? President William Ruto advisors might be rushing to court on Monday saying the election must be conducted on Tuesday and find Gachagua off guard, Kalonzo off guard, Matiang'i off guard. Has this judgment given Ruto an opportunity to dismantle the opposition leaders? Yes. If he goes to court and says we must do elections on Tuesday, he'll get his opponents off guard. Okay, Dan Sanomari, we thank Cyrus for having looked for this authority and brought it to us. It is called, let me give the citation. It is Dr. Owiso Caliph Khalifa and Ashoya Biko versus the Attorney General and the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. This is petition number E023 of 2025, is a judgment that was issued by Lady Justice Mugure Thande today, the 7th day of August 2026. Keep watching, we bring it to you as it is.